YouTube, we're back. Brian Phillips here. Part 4 of the flaps mod. We've got them cut out, shaped. Now we have to do some more scary and difficult things. Predominantly, we need to get these things hinged up. And it's scary and difficult because I remember when I did these ones, I had a heck of a time getting all the hinges in because they kind of move at different angles. It was one thing to get them in loose, but then to actually glue them was very challenging. But I think I might have been doing that before my days with mucilage. So I was using CA on these, and I was all nervous about getting CA in there. So anyway, without further ado, we're going to jump into that. Okay, so as you can see, and I think periodically, I may notice some things that I want to try to tweak, like right here. Well, I noticed a little piece. Don't be afraid to get in there. Ruffle some feathers. Okay, so here goes nothing. So basically these two are going to be quite simple. We have to make a decision on size finally. And I think the small size is the only choice for the ends. So that's pretty easy. I say we do that first and get on with it. Now some people have taken and done them like this, to where this whole mass will come out and away. But as you can see, if we do that, we're going to quickly engage the ground, because I don't want to get this thing too close to the ground. And I think our airfoil shape is going to be plenty effective from the angle that we have. So the big thing you got to be careful about is that you get the correct angle that this is actually operating at, and not the angle that you think it's going to operate at, because there's a difference. Now in my experience with the foam, the easiest way to do this is to take a small wire and actually heat it up, and you can use this to make the hole with which to receive this hinge, okay? But you want the hole to be a little bit smaller. You'll regret it if you do it another way. Now I don't mind if that hinge sticks up, but I don't want to have a problem with this thing being ugly. So I'd assume to have it hidden if I can. I'm just going to fold this all the way around. We got to get our torch running. Goodness gracious, we were getting low on gas. You guys probably know this. I'm not the type of guy to just throw that away when I've still got gas left in the container. Okay, so we'll get that one hole made. Then we'll go ahead and slip this in. Ooh, we escaped. So what that tells me is that even the small one is a little bit too long. So we'll just take and clip it at an angle right at the end. So no big deal. We'll be doing that a lot with the bigger ones. And then this piece that popped out, you can just kind of force that back into the hole where it came from. Okay, so now knowing where things align is actually pretty easy, but then actually getting them to align for practical purposes is much harder. Okay, so we want this alignment to be I mean, exact as you can get it. There's not a lot of wiggle room when you have a complex system like this. We are actually out of gas finally, guys. Okay, so just so you guys know, I've been using that gas can forever. For like 4,000 years. Okay, maybe I haven't been using it quite that long. So just to give you an idea, I've probably been using that can about as long as I've been doing my YouTube channel. Maybe a little bit less than that. Oh, it's so awkward to do this step, guys. You want to dive it in so you're going to actually get into the meaty part. Okay? These are the caps. So I have to figure out what to do with that empty. Alright, so now that we have both sides holes started, we can slip this thing in there on the other side. Okay? Fairly simple. It's easy to do when you're not all glued together yet. Okay? It just gets harder the more pieces that are already together. Okay? So there you have it. You see, we've already got a lot more resistance than we had before, and that's because we don't have the exact angle right. So the way you can get the angle right is probably with some thin pliers like this. That way you don't have to completely disassemble it. You can just kind of turn it to the angle. See? See how much easier that is now? And you'll have to get that to the angle where it doesn't want to fight the movement. Which is not a big deal when there's one. It's more of a big deal when there's all these in here. So let's keep working down the way. I'm going to go wash this stuff off my hands. We work with a white plane. Don't get stuff on your hands. Squeaky clean. So basically the next one, we'll do the exact same thing. Except we've got to probably use a little bit bigger one. Since we want some strength at some point in this wing. We may not be able to have it exactly as strong as you'd like it to be. But I'm just torn between this and the really big one. The really big ones actually hinge a lot easier. They're going to weigh a lot more too, though. And obviously, we can trim these down quite a bit. I don't know. I think we do the small ones first, and if we have any complications, then we'll move on to the bigger ones, because we'll have a hole that will allow us to get in there then. Okay, so I'm going to actually probably have to take this whole stinking thing apart. That sucks. I'll sleeve that back. Okay, so now that that's back, we need to find where we want this to actually penetrate. So we're going to go in at an angle like that, and then we want it to pivot mostly this way. Man, those little things like to get away from you, don't they? So we got this little stick here again. It's a little hotter than before, a little quicker. And this is where you can dictate the angles that are going to be allowed. You want to try to keep that knuckle from being big and ugly. But you see what I'm talking about, how it gets tricky? It is definitely tricky. But once you get it, you've got it. I'm actually going to use my pliers to help hold at the knuckle and push straight in. Oh, that son of a gun won't slip on me. I think I'm going to have to open up that hole a little bit deeper. So we're going to bend this and just give us a little bit more penetration. Yep, that's right. The word I've been forbidden from using on my own YouTube channel by my wife. Okay. Alright, cool. So it's still kind of fighting me a little bit. It's not as bad as I had thought it might be, but certainly not as smooth as it was before with the tape, but it's a whole lot stronger. Okay. Okay, so you can see we've got a gap here now too, but that gap I like. That gap is good. More deflection on the flaps then. Although look what's happening here, guys. I think that's a problem, isn't it? See that? I don't think we're going to be able to stay attached. How big of the gap is? How big is the gap over here? It's a pretty good sized gap. I guess these are going to also have the same gap, so we do have enough of these, so we're just going to keep moving. Get that nice and toasty. Okay, so now we'll get this seated in here. It's wanting to kind of come out the side, so I got to heat it up again. I think I liked you better, Torch, when you were low on fuel. Okay. This keeps trying to rip through on the side there, but I really think there's a whole lot we can do about it. There's just going to be a little relief there now. Little bump. Okay, so let's see if that angle is going to match. I see we're close now. You'll notice I picked the corner, and the reason I picked the corner is because that's where it seemed to line up best on my second chance over here. It seemed to give me less binding there on the corner than if I did in the middle. Okay, so that's going to make a little bump, give us a guide. You guys might be wondering why I don't just bring the torch over here. There's just not a good place to sit it. That's all. Not some big hidden plan there or anything. Okay, so we're getting decent actuation, but I'm not sure I'm crazy about it yet. We may end up having to put a metal rod or something through here to kind of keep things tied together here, but allowed to be free up at this top portion. Okay, so this is where we may end up transitioning to the larger ones if we do. Now you'll notice that I'm not using any glue yet, and that's just the way it's going to be for the moment. Okay, so this is going to go in there like that. It's going to give us our actuation this way. It's going to tie it at the right angle. Okay, get rid of that tape. Come back over to torch fill. Okay. So like I said, if this doesn't work well, then we've left enough room in the material to be able to move it over, hypothetically. But like I said, it's very awkward to get these things in here. I knew it would be. I just was hoping that I'd be wrong about that or something, magically. It's like, how the heck am I supposed to get that in there? I have to back out the next one to even think about it. Oop. Okay. Okay. You see what's happening here? That's not good. But remember, we're going to be driven from in here. I think we might be okay. It's always hard to be sure until you're done. It's just, you can't have them pivoting though, and that's what I'm afraid is happening a little bit, is that it's wanting to pivot. If they pivot, that means that we picked the wrong angle. We need to be a little bit less steep, I think. See, it doesn't want to go any further than that. You'd be really loading the servo hard to do any more than that. Not to mention this thing's wanting to spin every time. Let's see if I can pull it out. There we go. Finally got decent penetration there. See, that's still not right, but it's a little better. Feels a lot better. Looks better, feels better. So now you can see that these come out at slightly different angles. So it feathers down to nothing, which is really cool. Okay, so now this one should be fairly easy to do. I think we kind of have to do the big one because this one's going to bear a little bit more load. The problem is there's going to be structure where this sticks into the foam. So we're going to have to shorten this a little bit, which is not a big deal, but we don't want to lose all of these teeth here. Let's go ahead and untape it. Let's leave this tape here for now because we may end up doing a tape hinge there. I don't know for certain what direction I want to go with that yet. Okay, so I think we need to favor toward the inside again. And I think we'll go ahead and we'll just heat this up, except the other way. As you can see, we'll get you only have to heat the tip. Okay, we didn't make it through. That's always good. Yes. Okay, cool. So now you can sit here and verify the angle that you think it's going to work. And then we can actually double check it. That's pretty close, actually. Maybe just a little bit less. Okay, so now we need to cut this off so that we have only 3. We need to have 1, 2, 3. I think we go any more than that, we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So obviously that's not as sharp. Shouldn't be a big deal. Let's make sure we know exactly where we want that to line up so we can get into the material properly there. I know there's probably somebody at home watching like, I can't wait till he grabs that hot end. One of my YouTube trolls. Okay. I think I might have got that a little bit too much. We'll see. When they get this big, you kind of got to make sure the material is gone. You can't just force it in. Oh, yes. Oh, it's so far so good. But you see how this is rocking? It's a rocking. That's not good. Because if it's allowed to rock, that means we can't pivot from one spot. See? Now, I don't really honestly anticipate being any more steep than that, ever. I really don't. That looks pretty good. I mean, yeah, if you pulled hard enough on it, it would go. But I think you'll just eventually split it here. I think that looks pretty awesome, though. As long as I'm pulling from the middle, we're good. If I pull from here, it's going to be weak. Why is it popping? Where am I hitting? Oh, it's the tape. Duh. Okay, so if I'm pulling, I'm going to be pulling from here. So now, what I need to do is I want to allow this to pivot some in 2 different axes. I did this on the other one and it worked. So I think I want to go with this again, this size. If I go with the big ones, this is too much material for this thin stuff. But this is pretty critical here. So I got to make sure I get my angles correct, not my math. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to actually tape down the hinge on the surface. And that'll give us a good simulation of things to come. Yeah, popping was definitely the tape. Okay, so I'm going to tape this down in the approximate angle that I want it to go. I'm going to see how much resistance we get, and then I can play with it. Because obviously that's going to hold tighter than what it is right now. So I need to cut a little of this tape off and hold it down tight like it's going to be. Because it won't be allowed to move like that once it's glued. Obviously when it's loose it will. And plus I think this needs to move down closer to the bottom of the hinge point. I know that tape is bridging a little bit, guys. I'll see if I can correct that here for the sake of the test. Okay, here goes nothing. See, it's wanting to bind up on us. Where was it binding? Ooh, yes, it's binding here. Okay, that's not expected, but still, good to know. See, when I lift this is lazy. So if I pull hard, it's allowed to be pushed, but only so far. So I think what we need to do is we need to have possibly some more support secondarily. I wonder if I could do 2 of those. Getting into a lot of hinges here. We could also use a smaller one and just not glue it. For sure not glue it, you know? Actually, both of these we could not glue. So just holding the 2 glued pieces in. Because those other pieces are all going to be glued on both sides. Could also just tape this together. And that would be satisfactory, I believe. Ooh, can't have that hinge in that far. The hinge has got to be on the joint. Remember, if this isn't strong, you can't actuate this with one servo. There's a lot of resistance as I pull that out. But it's definitely going. Yeah, it's definitely going. Definitely going. Definitely going. But you see this one's spinning? That's going to totally screw with us. This one's also pivoting. This one's also pivoting. This one's not pivoting that I can tell, but only just a little bit. If they pivot, guys, it causes problems later. Unless you just want to leave them in there loose like that, which would be not a good move. You see how much is pivoting? This one's not. That's good. The big one's not. Thank goodness I got one that's not. Okay, so I'm going to line these up different and do another test. Now, if you guys haven't figured out why I'm doing this, this was one of the pitfalls I ran into on the smaller Airbus A380 that I had from Supreme-Hobbies. I'll just go straight across with this one. Except, you know what? I'm going to rotate it like this, so that the hinge is right there on the actual, so then it's allowed to, ooh, that's really good. Okay, I think that might be what I was doing wrong. It seems like not really too complicated when you look at it in hindsight. Just like half this crap is. Always seems easy when you look back. You forget all the challenges you faced when you were trying to design it from a piece of foam. So we're about running out of time here again, so this is probably going to be the end of part number 4. Oh yeah, that looks good. That looks good. I like it. Now, can I get away with just one? I don't think so. I don't think I'm going to get away with just one. I think I got to have 2. I don't know if I have enough thickness in the material here, though. I for sure can get the inside one. Alright guys, with that being said, a lot of testing here on this step. But it's looking really cool. It's looking nice. I think it's going to look great. But it's always yet to be seen if this is going to hold up when we start gluing things together. It doesn't always work as good once you get it all glued. So we're going to definitely glue this together next. Come back and be part of it, guys. Brian Phillips here signing out. Check the description below. There's links there on stuff you can buy to help the channel, help support it, keep it going. And we appreciate it as always if you can do that. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.